Remember, Chin, on Monday, I was telling you about that Steve Will Do It guy who went really bad on me. He was like defending Dana. And I went dark a little bit how I can kill people. When it comes to hand-to-hand fighting, I will you up. Unless your name's Francis Ngannou, Gordon Ryan, Tyson Fury, I will you up. And these are just facts. These are just facts.
Brendan Schaub has reminded us this week yet again that he's the biggest loser on the internet, whether it's getting trolled on Twitter and not realizing it, or going on a CTE rant on his livestream that nobody watches, and then clickbaiting his dying audience on The Fighter and the Kid. But it's not just that, he filed an appeal this week in court that doesn't make sense, so more on that towards the end, because no matter what this guy does, he finds a way to extract maximum damage and make himself look like an absolute tool in the process. He really has taken losing to a whole new level and almost turned it into an art form. So it all started with UFC 300. Our boy Bappa was a vocal critic of the event. He thought that the stakes weren't high enough and it was all for show, which isn't necessarily wrong or a bad take, but in the end it was a pretty wild show. Most people I know enjoyed it. And so in true Dana White fashion, he had a little edit made up to call out all the critics of the event, which included Brendan Schaub.
All right, so this is this is pretty interesting.
This is interesting. So Dana White does a thing on, shout out to Dana White.
Yeah.
So Dana White does this thing on UFC 300. He basically made like his version of a diss track of all the people in MMA media. Not all, he left out a few, but some of the people in MMA media who were kind of critiquing UFC 300. And so he plays this video. Now, I think this was on Saturday, April 20th when he did this. Yeah, Saturday. So you can play the video, Jen.
What's up, guys? As we rolled into UFC 300, the MMA experts weighed in on what they thought of UFC 300. And for all the fighters that were on this card, when I said this is the greatest card ever assembled in the history of combat sports, this is what the media thought of you guys.
Kick off with me.
Makes no sense. Is any fight on this card 300 worthy? No.
This is the most diabolically disappointing UFC 300 announcement.
Ooh, they did Jesse dirty though.
Yeah,
video's dope.
it is dope.
Yeah, it is. So
and it's awesome that he actually replied with respect. That's so awesome.
I saw that, and then what I put up there, I put, why you bring up old shit? Yeah. You know, like I put fair play. UFC 300 was amazing, and then Dana responded, "That's awesome." #respect.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you think Cringe Papi will ever realize that Dana White thinks he's a joke? I mean, clearly the whole thing was a publicity stunt. Dana grew the UFC off the back of being the underdog that everyone wanted to ban. They were always second to boxing. Nobody took them seriously. So he's always going to use whatever negativity and hatred he gets to promote the UFC and prove everyone wrong. It's so formulaic, you could literally write an equation out for it. So then why is it that Brendan has to take everything so literally?
And then you always have people like whenever Dana, we've had our issues over the years, but it's all good, man. It's all good. I give Dana the credit for, give me the career that I have. If he didn't change the rules and do the Reebok deal, who knows what would have happened to me? I probably would have stuck around to make the money, but he didn't. And, he changed the rules because that was best for his business. He wasn't trying to hurt me. It took me a while to realize that, but that gave me the fuel to build the podcast and Firing the Kid and, Big Brown Breakdown and do what I do. So, I should probably give him some sort of percentage, if he needed it, but I would. I don't want to, but.
Oh geez, I think I just vomited in my mouth a little bit. Of course Brendan tries to turn this into a flex, but wait, it gets worse. So we all know who the Nelk Boys are. If you don't, God bless you. You can turn this video off right now and go back to living your life with absolutely zero regrets. But for the rest of us, Dana White aligned himself with Kyle and his buddies, no doubt to capitalize on their audience and maintain relevance amongst a younger crowd. So after Brendan Schaub called out Dana for UFC 300, Steve Will Do It got onto Twitter and trolled him so badly that it was actually funny as hell. Dana White is a top-tier human. Brendan Schaub, you're a goofball. I thought you were a former UFC fighter. You failed at comedy and you can't even talk UFC right. Brendan Schaub is a loser. Then he took it down a notch and made fun of his name, saying Brandon Schaub, more like Brandon Slob, #loser, followed by imagine being a former UFC fighter and get introduced by Dana White as a podcaster. Lol, Brandon Schaub loser. So clearly, Steve had a few too many hard seltzers and decided to troll the Cringe Papi, which honestly seems entirely appropriate. I mean, I agree with almost everything he said. He was speaking straight facts. But for our boy Buppa, he felt that he had no choice but to address Steve on his live stream earlier this week.
Steve will do it. He came at me on Twitter. I was like, what? Like,
why though?
He's close with Dana. And I think he's young. I don't know how old he is, but I think he's young. So maybe that's his way of like getting his boys back, which I respect. I get that. But this isn't, you don't know what you're doing. You're not educated on the dynamics of everything. And that stuff doesn't bother me. You know, I've dealt with much worse. He's defending his boy, which I get and I love. I do the same. I ride for my guys. But do a little research. I'm not this isn't it, bud. This isn't it. You know, I have a background, so there's stuff you can go after. Yeah, I was at world champion. No, I'm not Kevin Hart or Joe Rogan. You know? So you can poke stuff at that. It's like, oh, you just don't know, Bubba. Failed comedian. Oh, buddy, you don't know comedy. You don't know comedy. That doesn't work. From your outside perspective, I'm not at Kevin Hart or Joe Rogan or Sebastian's level. No. Does that mean I failed? Fuck. Then 99.999% of comics fail. If that's your level, then yeah, all of us are failures for about 5 guys in the world to ever do it.
Okay, this was absolutely wild. Brendan dedicated almost 1 hour of the Schaub show, or whatever it's called, to discussing the Dana White Steve will do it drama. That's how much he doesn't care about any of this and it doesn't bother him. Almost an hour of an hour and 25-minute live stream. Yeah. This doesn't bother him one bit, and you could tell the comedy thing really got to him. For those of you who don't know, the Cringe Papi had to scale back on his stand-up comedy commitments because he was struggling to sell tickets and was building a reputation for cancelling shows. So he pretended that he was spending more time with his family earlier this year as a cover for effectively retiring from stand-up comedy. And just quietly, on what planet are Joe Rogan and Kevin Hart in the same league of comedy? I should also correct him, he was exaggerating when he said there's only 5 successful comedians on the planet. There's actually 1,000 of them. Or was it 500? Nah, it was 250, wasn't it? Anyway, I do have to agree with Brendan on one thing. He definitely isn't a failed comedian. That would imply he was a comedian to start with. Thank him be. But then things went a little dark. Brendan wasn't done yet. He leaned into it and he started throwing veiled threats towards Steve will do it. And don't forget, Buppa has no issues with him. None of this bothers him. He's completely cool with all of this. Just saying.
Yeah, with Steve, I have no issues with him. He seems like a good guy. Anybody that knows him tells me he's a good guy. I don't know what he does. Maybe he's just ill-informed. But I'm easy to find. Super easy to find. Super easy to find. You know? And we have a mutual friend in Bradley Martin. I text Brad yesterday. You know, I talk to Brad probably once a week. Brad's a close buddy of mine. Helped me out, you know, with my energy levels and peptides and all. Like, Brad's my guy. Yeah. Absolutely adore Bradley. He's the fucking man. And he's best friends with Steve. So there's a mutual friend there. So I'm easy to find. You can get my number from Bradley. If there's something going on that I don't know about, you're so upset, I can meet you at Zoo Culture, whichever location you want. We can meet there. We can talk about it. If you're so mad, we can go in the back room and figure it out. You sign papers that you're not going to sue or anything like that. We can figure it out. No, I don't. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how this goes.
Never do that, but I know what you're saying.
No, but I'm saying if he's that mad, it's like
if he wants to,
we can figure it out. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
But you would never. I know you would never.
No, I don't want to. He seems like he's small too. I don't. So it doesn't like I don't come off as a bully. But remember, he came at me. So it's like if you're that mad, that's an angle. I'm down.
Okay, Brendan, there's this thing called the Second Amendment, and never mind, let him have his fun. But all jokes aside, not everyone thought this was as cringe as I did. He actually had quite a bit of support for calling out Steve and saying, hey man, if you've got a problem, we can sort this out like men. And I'm not going to lie, I would love nothing more than to see our boy Bupper line up the Nelk boys and teach them a lesson one by one. The world would definitely be a better place after that. The thing is, though, he didn't just leave it at that, he went on and on and on. Now, I don't know if it was the kratom or the rogue pouches, the addies, or just too much coffee. Brendan went to extraordinary lengths to prove to everyone just how much none of this bothers him.
Whatever community, trucking, car community, nobody that's ever come after me, I've never been worried if you locked me in a room with them how it would go. I've never had a single person on this earth come after me that I couldn't beat up. And that's just facts. This isn't a bully thing. This isn't a cocky thing. So I think that's why it doesn't bother me, because I know Steve, or I know insert comic or insert podcast or insert whoever it is from anything that I do that talk shit about me. I know if we were in the same room, you would not talk to me that way. When it comes to hand-to-hand fighting, I will you up. Unless your name's Francis Ngannou, Gordon Ryan, Tyson Fury, I will you up. And these are just facts. These are just facts. Now, we can live in a world where these YouTubers and the guys like Steve, his buddies around him are going, oh, dude, you should fight him. Oh, dude, I don't know, dude. He got knocked out by Nogueira that time. There's that world that lives on social media and YouTube. That's not real. That is not, you cannot fight. I promise you cannot fight. Maybe you can amongst your boys and the YouTubers. Cool. That's not real, Bubba. This will not end well for you in any facet. This is the real world. You will get severely fucked up. And that's why I'm cool with it.
Yep, he is 100% cool with this. But you've got to admit, Bupper's right. It's all fun and games on the internet, but once the cameras and mics are turned off and it's just you and Brendan in a dark room, yeah, he's going to have his way with you. Hang on, are we still talking about fighting? The other thing is, to play devil's advocate, no one's calling him out to fight. None of us are saying, Bupper, you're a tool, let's fight, I'll smash you. So it doesn't really make sense to call somebody out to come and fight you when all they were doing was pointing out that you're a loser. It's like if a kid says to another kid that they're stupid and read too slow, and so the other kid says, yeah, but my dad's stronger than your dad. Yeah, but you're still a slow reader. Either way, Brendan's Sookfest apparently worked, or so he thought. To me, Steve was still trolling him and talking absolute shit. I want to take back anything I said about Brandon Schaub. The guy is a very nice person and I shouldn't have attacked him. I don't think he is a nasty person. My bad, Brandon Schaub. You're a good guy, I feel. Looked into you more. It's no more nasty people in 2024 and I don't believe you're nasty. He also said, I listened to him talk about me on his podcast and I'm like, this guy seems like an awesome guy. So I want to take back what I said. And so Brandon took the bait and replied with, all good, my brother. I'm so glad they managed to clear all of this up, and Bupper still has no idea that this whole thing was a massive joke at his expense. But wait, it gets worse. Oh man, this was cringe as hell. Let me explain. So, like I said earlier, not everyone shared my feelings about this whole situation. A lot of people sided with Bupper on this and thought it was about time that he called these clowns out and set them straight. The fact that Steve fake apologized apparently fooled a bunch of people into thinking Brendan had won, and so it wasn't all bad for our boy. But then, in true Cringe-o Puppy style, he took it too far and tried to milk it for everything. This was the thumbnail for the latest episode of The Fighter and the Kid. He's got Steve in the middle talking into a mic. It says they hashed out their beef, and to the average person, it looks like Bupper managed to get Steve on his podcast to settle this beef. Except it was pure clickbait. In fact, the clickbait was so bad that not only did they not get Steve on the podcast, they spent less than 60 seconds actually talking about it over the whole episode.
I feel like most people are like this. Like, remember, Chin, on Monday, I was telling you about Steve Will Do It guy who went really bad on me. He was like defending Dana, and I went dark a little bit how I can kill people, which is out of character for me, and I apologize. Me and him connected. We talked.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because him and Bradley are super close, and Bradley texted me. He was like, "Yo, I'm gonna connect you with Steve."
And when you talk to him, I'm sure he's a great guy, and you guys get along. And all that.
He was like, "Oh, dude, I watch your podcast. Like, you're actually a good guy." He's like, "I was drunk, man." He's like, "I was just firing off at the mouth."
I love it.
He goes,
I love
"I'm
him.
sorry, man." He was like, "I didn't
Good
mean
for
it."
him. That's a man.
And I told him, I said, "I get it, dude. It's all good. We're more similar than we are,
Of course. Good for him.
Yeah, it was
You
great.
know who I like a lot? Luke Thomas, but I don't know him.
Yep, that was it. And it wasn't the homeless cats that got their knickers in a knot. We all know Brendan's petty tricks, but it was actually his dying audience that started to turn on him. The Steve Will Do It clickbait was pretty shameless. Come on, guys, don't do this. He's not even on the pod. What the F? Clickbait. 3 minutes 50 for 5 seconds of Steve Will Do It talk, laughing my ass off. Not on the pod? Guys, this is ridiculous. Crazy clickbait to put in with the mic, which is from the Nelk podcast. Haha, wow, what a misleading thumbnail. How is the headline about Steve Will Do It if you only talk about him for less than 1 minute? And that's how Brandon managed to take what little credibility he'd mustered through this fake beef and turn it into yet another massive L, all by himself. And the funniest part is the clickbait didn't even work. That episode has less views than they usually get, which makes it all so much better. This guy's a full-on train wreck at this point, and that extends to the courtroom. Here we go. All right, let's change gears. So, for those of you who don't know, a couple of years ago, Brandon sued a small YouTuber called Kyle Swindells, who goes by the name Unique. And earlier this year, the judge sided with the defendant, going against our boy Bupper, declaring that Kyle's use of clips from Brandon's podcasts fell under fair use, dismissing the case and leaving Bupper with an enormous legal bill with nothing to show for it. If you want the full breakdown, you can go and check out my video covering the legal dispute. But you would think that after making one of the biggest L's in internet history, Brandon would let it go, lick his wounds, learn his lesson, and go back into the hole that he came from. I mean, Kyle self-represented with the assistance of a ghost lawyer. Nobody knows who he is. It's a complete mystery. He operates from the dark using an untraceable email address, feeding Kyle everything he needs to make his legal filings and representations in court. Anyway, sorry. So you would have thought that Bupper would let it go now, but in true Brandon style, he had to make the whole situation worse by lodging an appeal. Honestly, this guy is the gift that keeps on giving. This is what it says. Reasons why oral argument should be heard. Plaintiff appellant, Thick Boy Productions, respectfully requests that the court schedule and hear oral argument in this case. This case involves novel and important issues of copyright law and fair use, and how these legal standards should apply in the modern age of internet, podcasts, and YouTube. The main issue on appeal is whether Swindells has met his burden of showing that his extensive use of Thick Boys podcast episodes, while adding, at most, relatively short and insubstantial voiceovers, constitute fair use. So, if you recall, the judge agreed with the defendant on all the elements of fair use, except for one. She actually agreed with Thick Boy Productions that Unique had used more clips than were necessary for his commentary and didn't specifically comment, criticize, or analyze all of the copyrighted material to the extent that perhaps he should have. She said, all of the accused videos include segments of the copyrighted videos which Mr. Swindells did not criticize or comment on. This is actually something that I personally agree with. Too many commentary channels just dump clips into their videos and don't address them specifically or comment on them. They don't actually transform the material by giving it new context based on an opinion or perspective. They just dump whole sections of podcasts and say, look how stupid Bupper is, without actually explaining why he's stupid, which is actually quite an easy thing to do. Yet Bupper still lost. Because the defendant satisfied all the other criteria so well, the judge had no choice but to rule in his favor via summary judgment. So if you want to know more about this appeal, I'm going to upload a full breakdown video on my Patreon going through all 60 pages of the appeal. I'm not going to do it here. It'll be far too long and not everyone will be interested. But in that video, I'm going to explain exactly why this appeal is doomed to fail, which has implications for all podcasters, including Joe Rogan. It all comes.
Can you just be? Like,
I can't.
Just be and
can't.
just enjoy the day.
Leanne
And
said
like,
to me the other day, she goes, let's sit on the porch and read a book. I go, read a book?
Yeah.
About me? You want me to read my book about me? I'll do that. Am I in Tom's book? I'll read his book. I'm not gonna sit there and read a Huck Finn novel.
Yeah.
I was like, I just don't get it.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I've got some classic podcast cringe for you, and who better to bring it to us than two of our best customers, Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. But this time it's a little bit different, because instead of Tom attacking his fans for getting bored of him bragging about his houses, cars and watches, Bert found himself on the receiving end of a Tom Segura pep talk. Remember? You just got to change your attitude, bro. So it started yet again with Bert turning the podcast into a therapy session. Man, this guy's got a lot of problems. It's like clockwork with these guys. They're so rich and famous now that any conversation they engage in inevitably turns into a discussion about themselves and their problems. Forget about entertaining your fans, right? And for Bert, well, he feels a little hard done by at the moment. He's been working so hard and it's taking its toll on him. So he opened up to Tom about his latest problems in the hope of getting some sympathy and guidance. But he forgot who he was talking to because Tom wasn't having any of it. And so he started to give him the talk.
Like anytime that anyone's with me for any minute of any period of time, they're like, how the fuck do you do it? Red Band told me last night, you know what you need to do? Take some time off. And I was like, okay. I was like, sure, man. And he was like, no, you do. And I was like, I mean this as a friend, but like you have no idea what my life's like. Like no idea. I don't mean that like I'm overwhelmed. I'm just saying like I got a lot going on, and so like
That's
I'm
true.
just trying to keep my head above
There
water.
is a degree, though, of truth that you should acknowledge in that statement, though. Right?
No, I can't take that from Red Band.
No.
I love Red Band. I love Red Band.
Like, let's take him out of the picture. The degree of truth that I'm talking about, that like we all have to have some acceptance over this at some point, is that ultimately, especially if there's tons that you're committed to tons, you do have to remind yourself, and I'm not saying you, Bert, specifically, we all do this, that you are the one who sets the pace and the commitments. It's about the fact that like, and I think you do struggle with this. I have struggled with this as well. It's about like having some no's, like no to this, no to that.
I think
because you prioritize things that way. When you say yes to everything, you're actually saying no to some of the things you give a shit about. And you're saying halfway yes to some of the things you care about because you're too spread out and you're too exhausted to do everything well.
No, I haven't run into that yet. I'm achieving at a pretty high level.
And so it was at this point that both Tom and Bert realized where this was going, but due to the severe lack of awareness in that studio in general, and the elephant-sized egos behind each man, it slowly descended into a tit-for-tat of who's more busy, who's got more problems, and who's more successful.
I hope people can hear what I'm saying, and not just hear what you're saying and go, because you're right. You're right. You're definitely right. I'm not saying it to be right. I mean, I'm saying it just because look, I need the reminder too. When I say this thing, it's not about I would love your pace of life. Well, but like, hang on. Well, okay, so like, perfect example.
I signed up for the fucking craziest tour.
Yeah, but my tour's as crazy, and I fly to Austin once a month to do a podcast. And and you're right, I overpack my schedules.
Yeah.
Like we all have a crazy tour. You have I wish I didn't have a fear of flying. That was number one. Yeah. I wish I didn't have a fear of flying. I'm jealous of you. I'm jealous that you fly home sober and you like look at a paper and you have a coffee on the plane and then you get home and you play with the kids and then you like work out. Like I would love that. But instead I get all worked up when I have to fly. I wish I could get rid of that. For me, I have to have the structure when I'm home. Like when I'm home and I don't get home often.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like,
but do you ever,
but hang on, the last thing I'll say, and I mean this respectfully, but like you have I hope people hear this right. You have the luxury of being wanted young. Like, you have the luxury of people wanting you when you were younger in the business, before you guys had kids. You were blowing up. You guys got money before me and Leanne got money, and we watched you guys I remember going to your houses and being like, holy shit, like, when the fuck did this happen? And then you go to the next house, I'm like, you're what the fuck? And you guys were very taking it in pace and all that, but I think I got it later. So when I got it later, I'd already had 2 kids. They were already in like middle school. And then all of a sudden I got all these opportunities that you got presented from, like, say, 35 to the rest of your life. I got presented at, say, 47, 48 till the rest of my life.
I think we're getting to the root of the problem here. It seems that Bert's problems stem from his fear of flying and reliance on alcohol, and being jealous of Tom Segura for being richer and more successful than he is. But hey, let's have a little fun. Why don't we all do a shot every time Bert says, I feel like?
Someone said it to me when we were at the US Open doing the first Fully Loaded show.
Yeah.
They're like, can you believe you created this? What was the inspiration behind creating this? And I said to them, candidly, if I didn't create it, no one would ever ask me to do it. Like, if I didn't do this, no one was going to say, hey, we want Bert. Like, if I didn't force...
So you created the thing you wanted.
I created the thing I wanted. When I started doing social media to promote my shows, it was because no one gave a fuck. And so I was like, I got to make this happen for Bert.
Yeah.
I need to get behind Bert and make this happen. Whereas you have the luxury of, you still, Tommy, have like fucking 20 years of a career to go that everyone's excited to see, including myself. I am on a fucking timeline, I feel like, where I go, I feel like Tupac, where I go.
We're only like 6-7 years apart in age.
I know, but you had a jump on me by another 10 years almost. Like, by like another 5 years.
So that you feel like you're working on a timeline right now.
I feel like I am. I feel like I got Fully Loaded. I got I like specials. Like, you're still like 2 specials ahead of me. I'm like, here we go. Like, I got to fucking write. I got to get on stage. I got to do stand up. Like, I feel like the starting gun went off and I didn't hear it, or I wasn't paying attention. So I'm like behind. And so I pack myself. Like, I mean this. Once again, I mean this with love, but I watch what you're doing here and at YMH, and it's not just the shows. The shows are fucking awesome, but what you're doing as a business is so inspiring. But you got to remember, I'm just getting inspired. You were inspired by someone fucking 5 years ago that I did not see that happen for. And so then I just started my production company. You've had YMH for fucking, I remember when you told me I'm going to start taking this seriously. And I remember going like, what? Like, the podcast? Like, I didn't get it. So I'm always late to the party. And when I show up at the party, I feel like this is a great analogy. I'm always late to the party. I feel like everyone's been drinking and I got to catch up. And so I'm doing shots and I'm snorting coke and I'm smoking weed. And then maybe sometimes it looks like I'm out of control. But I feel like taking these days off. I wake up going, I'm not doing shit with my life.
Wow. Okay. I think I've got a better grasp of what the actual problem is. Bert's just jealous of Tom. And while I was watching this, I started to get a little nervous because we know what Tom's like when people compare themselves to him and whinge and complain about how he's rich and they're not. He doesn't want their poorness to make him feel bad about being rich. And unfortunately, my suspicions were correct. And, well, the way Tom responded to Bert's whinging and whining turned out exactly how I had feared.
Here's the thing. If you're still mad about this, just know that it's your mindset and you're thinking like a fucking loser, but you don't have to.
You don't.
You can change the way you think, but you have to accept the way you're thinking right now is not going to get you anywhere. You're being bitter, you're being petty, you're insecure, you're not confident, and you can change that, but you have to be proactive.
Fuck. Sorry, guys. Wrong clip. Here's the clip I meant to play. Whoops.
I feel like everything that you're saying makes tons of sense, and I totally understand everything that you mean very clearly, but I think even you just saying it, part of your brain has to also understand that you don't have to view it exactly that way. Like, it's almost like you can see why you're seeing it that way, but that you also get that, like, if you don't do everything in the next 2 months. You can spread some of that stuff out over 6 months and have a pace that is more enjoyable to your life and to your health. And like, I feel like some of that still has to register to you, you know, that it doesn't have to be like this all the time.
It does not have to be like this all the time. And to be honest with you, the reason I'm taking so much time off right now is because both girls are home for the summer.
Good.
And I'm spending time with them, and I'm trying to enjoy it. I do have this inner voice that when I wake up, if I don't have like a semi-busy day, like a semi, like at least like a podcast, or I feel like I'm not doing anything with my life, where I go, I'm just wasting. What am I just going to sit here? Yeah. Like I feel like I'm wasting my time.
We're the same with a lot of things.
We're very similar.
Yeah.
I think I'm starting to realize how similar we are the more we know each other. Because I always thought you were the I don't give a fuck guy. Like, just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, and just like, things will happen. And then I see you busting your ass to get deals done. And I go like,
yeah, I definitely give it. And I'm the same way. I mean, Christina's always like, can you what does she say to me? She goes, I just get home from a tour. And she's like, what are you doing tomorrow? I go, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this. I'm going to go fly a helicopter. I'm going to work out. And she's like, can you just be? Like,
I can't.
Just be and just enjoy the day.
Ah, those damn helicopter flights, huh? Unlucky. So hey, it turned out okay in the end. You know, Bert should really consider himself lucky that he actually received some constructive criticism from Tom, instead of being mocked and belittled the way Tom treats his fans who whinge and complain about almost the exact same thing. That's what friends are for, I guess. And at the end of the day, this really does just go to show we're only as happy as we perceive ourselves to be relative to everybody else. I mean, Bert's making a shitload of money. No doubt he could retire right now and live a comfortable life just doing a few gigs here and there and the odd podcast, maybe just one per week instead of 8. But it's not enough. Compared to his best buddy Tom Segura, well fuck, those helicopter rides, huh? So the next time you come home from a hard day at work, you might have a sore back from heavy lifting, or maybe you have a headache from having to deal with shitheads all day long. Spare a thought for our boy Bert, who has to endure endless alcohol-fueled flights and lots of talking into a mic, sitting around with his best friends while they have staff to do all the heavy lifting for them, and also obviously to laugh at all their jokes. Don't forget, these guys are special. But if you do find yourself whinging and complaining about your life, don't forget all you have to do is just change your attitude. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.
I've watched it 10 times. Tony, what's going on? Do you not like Mark Maron? Does he not like you? What was that? What was that all about?
Whoa, just dropping a big one there. I mean...
Is there a beef with you and Mark Maron?
I mean, you know, I don't ever acknowledge these guys, these mentally ill people, when they, you know, go online and start talking about me and my friends and calling us Nazis.
So he's calling you guys and Joe Rogan Nazis, right? Is that what's happening,
yes,
essentially?
the 2 biggest, most watched podcasts.
Which is such a hack thing at this point.
You know, while I put out 2.5 hours of comedy content every week. Wow. And, you know, I don't blame them.
The 4 horsemen of the comedy apocalypse are self-destructing right before our eyes, and the fallout is funnier than anything coming out of the comedy mothership. The backlash against Joe Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe's obsession with self-promotion and aggrandizement has reached fever-pitch levels, and all their buddies are capitalizing on the momentum by bringing it up at every opportunity. It used to be about getting on JRE and Kill Tony to promote yourself and get that Rogan Kill Tony bump, but now all you have to do is talk shit about them for exactly the same effect. This whole thing is so simple. Rogan is famous for his podcast, and Tony is famous for his live talent roast show, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Nobody's disputing that. The problem is neither Rogan or Hinchcliffe can admit that simple fact. They're so stuck in their own fart cloud trying to push this narrative that they're the new gatekeepers of comedy, as if they've created a revolution down in Austin, Texas, when the reality is people are watching for the show, not for them. I'm going deep on this today. Usually I save these types of videos for Patreon, but I'm dropping this on YouTube because there are a few things I really want to say that people should know about. By the way, if you want to see exclusive footage from the Kill Tony London show that Tony and Red Band have been trying to hide from everyone, hit the link in the description to my Patreon because that video is dropping very soon. As for the current situation with Tony Hinchcliffe going on Legion of Skanks and hitting back at Mark Maron and Anthony Jeselnik, the copium is real in this one. Tony's sitting there with reflective sunglasses on, puffing on a British cigarette, acting like Liberace's long-lost love child while getting in his feelings over the growing backlash against the Austin comedy scene is peak comedy.
Tony, what's going on? Do you not like Mark Maron? Does he not like you? What was that? What was that all about?
Whoa, just dropping a big one there. I mean,
is there a beef with you and Mark Maron?
I mean, I don't ever acknowledge these guys, these mentally ill people, when they, go online and start talking about me and my friends and calling us Nazis.
So is Mark Maron saying we're Nazis and stuff? Is that the thing?
I don't think it's us. I don't think Mark knows we're friends with Tony.
Sure.
What's his beef with you?
I mean, look, man, the couple guys out of LA that now, are at the Comedy Store that have talked shit when they have, their once every 3 or 4 years special that they do when they come out like a groundhog and do something that people might see. Maron, Jeselnik, they all are on multiple episodes of Kill Tony. They've always smiled right to my face.
Phonies.
They all fancy enough, coincidentally, never leave avails when they know I'm going to LA.
Wow.
They're never around.
Wait, are they? Jeselnik also came at Kill Tony?
Yeah, Jeselnik.
They've both done multiple appearances on Kill Tony, all pre-pandemic when we were in LA. And when they want to push things, they
No, but I'm
talk
asking
shit.
more like, did he recently say something about Kill Tony?
Yeah, I think Jeselnik's taking a bunch of shots, right?
When he had a special to promote. Now he's going to be gone for a few years. And, while I put out 2.5 hours of comedy content every week.
Wow.
And, I don't blame them. If the shoe was on the other foot, if I was them, I would I'd be mentally maybe I would do it.
Here we go again with the mentally ill narrative that Joe Rogan trained his comedy assassins on. And before I go on, I don't necessarily disagree with everything Tony just said. I'll explain in a moment, but using the mentally ill card as a coping mechanism for even the slightest criticism of the Austin comedy scene is so played out and fucking lazy at this point. Rogan has literally called people who comment on YouTube videos mentally ill because they have nothing going on in their lives and probably work at 7-Eleven. Yeah, he actually said that. Of course, though, when the comments are positive, which they rarely are these days for these guys, then it's all good because they're just fans showing them some love. So they're not the mentally ill ones. I don't know why this analogy just popped into my head, but it reminds me of all those viral videos of cops beating the shit out of innocent civilians at traffic stops for absolutely no reason, and then claiming they were resisting arrest. Joe and Tony definitely have that energy. Stop resisting and kiss the ring. When we tell you to laugh, you'd better fucking laugh. Also, no heckling allowed. Just sit down and laugh like the sign says. And speaking of kissing the ring, Tony's sitting there acting like a mob boss whose nephews betrayed him. Mark Maron and Anthony Jeselnik have both been on Kill Tony multiple times pre-pandemic, so over 5 years ago, and now look how they broke my heart. I gave them everything and look how they repay me, by speaking their minds in public and taking ownership of their own opinions. If Do You Know Who I Am was a person, it'd be Tony Hinchcliffe. But this was the part that broke my heart. Jeselnik had a special to promote, so he'll be gone for a few years. Meanwhile, I'm pushing out 2.5 hours of comedy content per week. Now look, Tony's absolutely right about Mark and Jeselnik coming out from under their rock to promote their specials and taking shots at Rogan and Tony to go viral. I mean, Cat Williams did exactly the same thing, and I know he's already a big name, but the formula is exactly the same. But for Tony to back up that statement by saying he's pushing out 2.5 hours of comedy per week is absolutely fucking wild. This is the big lie that Tony and Rogan keep saying out loud. They don't do comedy. reality, they host it. Tony is an open mic comedy show host, and he's a great roast comedian. Him acting like he's pushing out the equivalent of a comedy special every single week is so delusional that I think he actually believes it. Blurting that out in the moment just goes to show you what he really thinks. What he really should have said was, Jeselnik had a special to promote, so he'll be gone for a few years. Meanwhile, I've never released a real comedy special in my entire career as a comedian. There, I fixed it. These guys really need to stop and listen to the actual criticism rather than creating their own narratives in their heads to help them sleep well at night.
But the thing with Joe,
yeah,
is I don't know that we have a lot to talk about because of my idea of what he's done to comedy.
Sure.
And I don't think it's great. I think that it's tribalized, and I think that, he's created a sort of army of people that think they know comedy, but they only know a specific thing, and what they think is good is not necessarily good. It may be what they're like, what they like, but on the outside of that, most of the sort of sensitive weirdos that we all grew up with in comedy have been sort of pushed aside, and the space for them has become limited. There are some good comics in there, and there is a lot of middle section. There's a lot. I believe that we all exist in the same
and it
world.
doesn't matter is my point. I get why you...
It's not all on him.
No.
The culture has changed.
Right.
And I don't necessarily think for the better.
What do you think the Austin shelf life is going to be?
Well, I don't know. I think that it's so effectively tribalized at this point. It really comes down to material. You're not able to confidently do an hour without worrying about getting clips so you can get people come see you to do crowd work.
Yeah.
What are you really?
Right.
What is your voice? Who do you work for? You'd like to think you're working for yourself, but you're just a platform bitch who doesn't really need to find who they are up there or do anything interesting at all. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So
I'm tired of the attitude.
I thought you were going to say violence in this country.
No.
I'm
tired. They come up back to LA. One guy, I want to name his name, and go, "Oh, you seem like you're thriving." And he goes, "I'm killing it."
Killing it.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, whoa, dude. You moved out because you couldn't survive here.
Yeah.
This is a different.
It's an animal.
It's an animal.
By now, everyone's figured out that Bobby Lee was talking about Tony Hinchcliffe there. The arrogance to come out and claim that you're killing it now when nobody actually cares about your stand-up act is so typical of the Austin comedy guys. I was reading a post the other day about someone saying how they went to a Tony and Friends show and how surprised they were to see how many empty seats there were everywhere around them. That's the reality for a guy like Tony. People don't watch Kill Tony to see his comedy, they watch it for the spectacle. I mean, that's why I watch it, and I'm a huge fan of the show. We want to see people bomb and get roasted and the different guest comedians on the panel. Occasionally an open micer murders on stage, and it's good to see. I mean, look at how Timmy No Breaks basically forced his way back onto the show after Tony and the panel clearly hated him. Nobody's tuning in to see what funny questions Tony's going to ask today. We all know it's the same shit on repeat. But like I said, Tony is right about one thing, and even though I agree with a lot of the criticism, guys like Mark Maron and Anthony Jeselnik are purposely drumming up publicity by going after Tony and Joe. And instead of ignoring it, Tony's getting sucked right into their game.
He had a special to promote, and he's ending his podcast, Maron.
Yeah.
He's ending it because literally no one's listening to it.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you look at the charts at all. No, it's a thing. No one listens to it.
I just don't get being worked up about the stuff ever to be like this, to go like publicly be like, this scene sucks. Like,
yeah, and he also calls everybody a hack, and then he talks about Trump for 3/4 of his special, calling him Bad Orange Man, and then talks about his sad cats like he has for 45 years. So
that's what bothers me the most. As the mayor of Hacktown, which I call myself at home. Yeah. This loosely throwing the H word around, I don't like it. All right? You got to earn your bones as a hack. All right?
Too
up, Chuck. Get him up there. Let's see it.
My only problem with it, and this is very sincere. My only problem with it is people can like what they like or hate what they hate. Sure. Comedy is f***ing hard enough, man. And Austin is 95% struggling comics that are there to try to fulfill this insane thing that we're all trying to do.
DeRosa's Carlton Banks not getting into a black sorority right now.
But you know what I mean? Like guys going out and on Austin, and it's the scene. It's like it's fucking hard enough, man. You know.
Shut up, Joe. You're not the mayor of Austin.
You moved there 6 months ago.
I listened.
You own a house in Pennsylvania.
I listened to you on Bennington give your dissertation on Austin. All right. Everyone is just trying, man, on this crazy little marble we're spinning on through space, trying to make people laugh for a living.
Yeah, you're right. I suck. There's a great scene there, and Tony and Joe and a bunch of other guys really helped cultivate this beautiful thing.
You made the sale, dude. You're in.
Dude, they like
And
you.
by the way, let me just say, you guys would literally have a place in Austin if you didn't have like visitation rights to your children. You know what I mean? You'd be freer. You'd be able to go do fun things. You wouldn't be tied down to this dark, rat-infested, grueling city.
Hey,
Also, too,
hey,
The Legion of Skanks.
Austin has plenty of rats.
All right, let's be honest about what's going on here. Big J and Lewis are jumping on the bandwagon as well. This is what makes this whole situation so fucking funny to me. Rogan and Tony are the only ones who are genuinely butthurt about getting called out. Everyone else around them are just going along for the ride. Lewis brought this whole beef up in the first place, clearly farming for clips. Then when Joe DeRosa jumped in with his cringe-ass take, they completely shut him down. I fucking love it. LA comedians have finally figured out that instead of ignoring the backlash against Austin, leaning into it is the better option. I really think that guys like Lewis and Big J think the Austin comedy circle jerk is cringe, and they're happy to sit on the outside and troll them.
And we always say, like, how much Dave Smith came on for, like, talks with you after that individually. Me and Lewis were like, why doesn't Joe embrace us the way he embraces Dave? And then someone brought up the first picture we ever took here. It's so funny. It's the werewolf. I am standing behind the werewolf like I'm f***ing it. Lewis
getting
is bent
sucked off.
Lewis is acting like he's getting sucked off by the bear, and Dave is just leaning in, touching it, going. I'm like, oh.
That's hilarious.
The difference between us and Dave.
I wonder why Dave keeps going back.
Dave has his hand on the head gently.
Yeah.
Is Dave in the Rogan sphere? We're trying to figure out how we get in the Rogan sphere.
Yeah.
What
My
is
ochre
this-
sphere
you're
is
in it
more
right
real.
now.
Look, first of all,
If
Shane
you're in it
doesn't.
right now,
Shane doesn't
you're
need the
here.
Rogan sphere anymore. Let's just move Shane out. Move Big J into that position.
Doesn't
right?
require the Rogan
Ari's
sphere at all.
moving to in Thailand or something. He's gone. Jay,
Come on,
that
bro.
was your
There's plenty
position.
of room for you guys. You're in the sphere right now. You're on the show.
Every time the Rogan sphere gets talked about, we never get thing. When Cat Williams said 6 unfunny comics,
we knew it wasn't us.
I knew it wasn't us. I would have been happy to be one of the 6 unfunny comics.
Was it Cat probably has a point. But what I was trying, he thought I wouldn't have him on. I'm like, bro, I love you.
Slow Joe strikes again, not realizing he's being trolled by real comedians, and we're starting to see more and more kinks in Rogan's armor. A couple of years ago, I think he genuinely ignored the haters and all the comedy fans who think his comedy sucks, but the backlash has gotten so big now that I think it's impossible for him to ignore. You've probably heard that after a photo of the wall in the Comedy Mothership came out, showing how Rogan had put his comedy special next to all the great comedy specials of all time, he's now had it taken down. There's no way he would have just randomly done that without knowing that he was being widely ridiculed for thinking he was in the same league as the other guys up there. There is no way he's hiding from the dozens and dozens of videos getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views dedicated to shitting on his brand of comedy and how much he's ruined the whole comedy scene. You guys have all seen the top comments on any post related to comedy on his Instagram or on YouTube, all trolling him for being a tall and funny comedian. So it's starting to make more sense to me now that behind closed doors, little Joe's getting frustrated.
You know, Rogan said something interesting. He was talking about, last night we were together, and he was talking about some people that tend to get a little bit, they blame other people for their failings, or they get critical, or they get bitter. You're where you are because of you. You did this. Don't blame that. Don't then turn and look at successful people and go, oh, those guys are assholes. Like, what are you doing, man? No, I didn't have anything to do with your not being a superstar. You did. Mm-hmm. So why are you turning to people that have been a little bit more successful and criticizing them? And it's exactly right. It's like, when was the last time you took responsibility for where you're at, man?
And
For
you're
me,
talking
it's
about
like-
some old salty comic.
Yeah, sure.
I know
maybe.
exactly what you're talking about.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely maybe. Sorry, real quick, just remind me who the mentally ill ones are again. Was it us or them? I'm falsely confused now. According to Joe and Tony, there's no such thing as valid criticism anymore. You're either a fan or a salty, jealous hater. There's nothing in between. And the narratives they come up with to cope with the backlash are totally overblown and exaggerated.
So he's calling you guys and Joe Rogan Nazis, right? Is that what's happening?
Yes,
essentially?
the two biggest, most watched podcasts.
Which
yes.
is such a hack
What
thing
a
at this point.
coincidence. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole Nazi thing, like I just kind of feel like that's such a 2016 thing to be calling comics.
Yeah,
To have
dude.
another comic doing it. It's
You're 2000 and late with that.
There you go.
I agree that it's played out, but characterizing the criticism as just them calling us Nazis is straight up cope. There's actually a lot more nuance to what Mark and Jeselnik have been saying, even if they're just fishing for a reaction out of them. As you saw in those clips I played earlier from Bad Friends, the main issue is the tribal, cult-like nature of the Austin comedy scene and how they've appointed themselves as the arbiters of comedy around the world. We've heard Rogan say multiple times on his podcast that the comedy mothership is the center of the comedy universe, and that Kill Tony is the benchmark for comedy around the world. It honestly makes me wonder, has Rogan ever actually sat down and watched a full episode of Kill Tony lately? I mean, whenever he's a guest on the panel, he's either high as a kite or wired out of his brain on nicotine pouches. So I doubt he understands how ridiculous he sounds when he makes outlandish claims like that. As for Tony himself, we're all waiting for his first real comedy special to drop. I wonder which played out jokes he's going to rehash and have to explain later on a podcast after there's a massive backlash against his jokes that nobody understands because there's no apparent punchline. In the meantime, though, if you want to see my breakdowns of all the worst comedy specials and Kill Tony shows, check out the link in the description to my Patreon and become a member so you don't miss out on my longer form uncensored content. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.